unmuted. The video is on, so we are still waiting for Ken to join, but Kurt is online. Oh, no, you can't. There you go. Nice.
I don't know who it is. I know. I'm trying to get the habit of doing it though, because I know that we're always. You ready?
Yep, we're ready.
All right. This is the March 17th Planning Commission meeting. And this is my first time.
All right. It's 6:30 p.m.
What? At 6:30 p.m.
Yes.
All right, should we do roll call? Carl here. Freilinger here. And Ken is not here yet.
Yeah, he is not online as of yet, so I will notify you when he joins.
Okay.
We meet. No, we don't know the forum.
Yeah, do we? Is that an
Are we
issue?
making decisions?
I don't think we're making decisions tonight. I think we're just discussing tonight.
Yeah, I think that's all it is. There's no hearing or anything.
It's
We're
not
good. Okay.
All right, so public comment. Patty?
Hey Karen, yeah, still Oregon. So I don't know if this really has anything to do with the planning commission. But maybe if you stretch it a little. Because of how people are trying to get businesses to come into town. My concern is that there has been no discussion as to why businesses have left. There's been a whole lot of businesses over the last, I'm going to say 10 years that have come to town or they've been here and for whatever reason they leave. The little place that was across the street over here, the little antique place that was over here, the gaming place, the coffee shop up next to the bank. But like I say, nobody knows why they left or it's not been talked about. I think in order to keep business here, we need to know why businesses have left, whether it's too costly, they're not getting enough support from the community. I just think that it would be a good idea if there was a way to find that information out so that it would help for new businesses coming in. That's it.
So we're going to move up introductions of the new city planner to now so that we can meet and introduce. So Kurt is our new city planner. Oh, you can't hear yet. We hear you.
You know, he's.
You ready?
Oh, there we go. I couldn't hear it. So would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Kurt Fisher. I'm an associate planner with the Council of Governments, Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. I've been with the COG for 2 years now. Before that, I spent 6 years on the private side. 5 years of that was with AKS Engineering, mainly preparing land use applications for private clients. So lots of subdivisions, lots of land divisions, lots of property line adjustments, but also a fair bit of site design review as well for a variety of types of projects, pretty much in jurisdictions ranging from as far north as Portland to as far south as Medford. So lots of different experiences in a lot of different jurisdictions. Yeah. And so like I said, moved over to the public side 2 years ago and really absorbing all that I can about long-range planning. So updating comprehensive plans, code updates. Those are kind of the newer skills that I'm absorbing here at the COG.
Okay, well, welcome. Yeah, so my name is Sean Freilinger. I'm the chair of the planning commission. And
Lyndon Carl, I'm just one of the guys, I guess.
We have one commissioner who's not here currently, Ken Moore. I never remember his last name. Ken Moore, and we have a vacancy too.
Yeah, and then Sue Richardson also.
Oh, and Sue Richardson.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ken should be joining by Zoom shortly, and then Sue was unable to join tonight. But there's 2 other planning commissioners and we have 1 vacancy right now that we've been advertising for a while, a couple months, right?
Mhm.
So tonight's meeting, agenda wise, the city council came up with some priorities and goals. And then I thought it would be good for us to have a conversation about those goals and what, as a commission, we might think would be good topics that I have some ideas of things that we should to look at, and Lynn might, Ken might, as a commission. And so it would give us an idea of how those align with what the city council wants, and how they might fit into that. So Shelley, could you?
Yeah, so I'll just start us off with going over the priorities that council, first I'll read the mission statement and then priorities that council came up with in January. And then March 1st, we just held a retreat, a day-long retreat where we broke down these priorities into like actionable goals, about 2 goals for the first 4 priorities, I would say. The second 4, we did not have time to get to. And then if we wanted to go into the EDC, the Economic Development Committee too, I can talk a little bit about that because I was there for that part too. But basically, the mission of the city of Yamhill is to foster a safe, sustainable, and vibrant community that celebrates our rich heritage, embraces opportunity, and enhances the quality of life for all citizens by providing essential services with integrity and respect. And this council's priorities are economic development, water stability, financial sustainability, emergency management, public safety, communication, parks, and livability. And then the goals that came from those, priority 1, economic development, goal number 1 is beautification and restoration of the central business district, which I think could have a lot to talk about tonight with that. That also happens to be a goal of the Economic Development Committee as well. And then goal number 2 is to identify authentic Yamhill. I'm using quotes because it's in quotes in their goal. And basically what that is to, everyone sort of talks about what they want downtown to look like, what they don't want, in the downtown core. And so it's sort of everyone's understanding of keep it Yamhill or historic Yamhill or authentic Yamhill. What does that mean? What does that look like? And having one sort of definitive answer from the community. So council talking about it, planning commission understanding that, and then the community really informing that. So that's a goal, is to identify what is that, look at the history, look at historic pictures and historic documents, and then decide, do we want a historic designation downtown? And if we do, what does that mean? Do we want it in the code? All those things. So that's one of their top goals, is that conversation. And then under water stability, to get the water contracts updated, which is happening and doesn't involve the planning commission really. And then research water alternatives, which we're doing through, the Merkley grant and getting additional water storage through a FEMA tank and other things. Then financial sustainability, goal 1 for that would be to inventory and enforce Airbnb, transportation lodging tax, which we're not currently doing. So we're working on that. And then identify cost savings in our budget, which I guess could impact planning commission in some ways. And then as far as the projects we're able to work on. And then priority 4, emergency management, is to write an emergency communications plan, practice emergency operation procedures and tabletop exercises with the county and staff, and then doing work on researching what it's going to take to get a new civic center / city hall / police department, all those things. So those were the specific goals. And I feel like the first 2 goals really touch on, the planning commission. And then, I don't know, quickly, Kurt, if, you and I've talked about this a little bit, but, going through like some of the plans that the city has and doesn't have, we know that the comprehensive plan hasn't been updated since 1999. The water master plan, I think, was done in 2018, and it's a 20-year plan. The transportation system plan, I know you're submitting a grant for that. And from what I see, it hasn't been updated since 99, although something was submitted in 2016, but it doesn't look like it was updated. And then the Parks Master Plan, I think, you know, we're in the process of doing right now. And wastewater master plan is 2015, which is a 20-year plan. And then we have our capital improvement projects, which is ongoing updates to that. So that's kind of the baseline of where the city sits right now. And I mean, I can go a little bit into the Economic Development Committee if you want me to, or we can stop here and.
I think, I guess I'd be interested in hearing some of the economic development conversation, and it might address some of Patty's questions that she brought up.
Yeah, so it kind of speaks a lot to the goals 1 and 2 of the council goals. And they came up with a mission statement as well. So the EDC exists, the purpose of the Yamhill Economic Development Committee is to bring economic vitality to the Yamhill Commercial Business District and create a thriving community in which to live, work, and play. So their focus is obviously CBD. And we, I guess I'm on the committee too, broke down, you know, the live, work, and play and the different areas to focus on. So like live would be a housing needs analysis, which I think Kurt, we briefly touched on. Resolution 828 is their charge from council to look into what's involved in making Yamhill a downtown and historic district and what does that mean? And then historic signage program, grants for beautification and branding, which speaks to the goal 1. The Main Street program is part of what the YDA is a part of, and that's kind of already happening. Maybe doing an Earth Day, cleanup day, and then engagement on Facebook. And then work, really that's about business recruitment and retention. And the feedback here was from the Yamhill Downtown Association. 2 of the members serve on that as well, so they brought that. But there were also from the committee, storefront improvements, code review and updates, which we're kind of doing through our grants right now, business retention, expansion, and recruitment. And so these would just be areas for that committee to explore as we get further down the road on that. And then land inventory, a civic center, which again ties into council boards, and a community square, which potentially should fall into play because it's more like a ton of park. And then on the play, the Beverly Cleary event, the Parks Master Plan, the Jane Heinrich Ball Fields, Derby Days, Cycle County, Yamhill, and then again, civic center and community square. So those are the areas, topic areas that that committee is focusing on. And the next Economic Development Committee meeting actually in April, we're going to do a walkabout and go through all the businesses in the downtown core and kind of identify what's vacant and what's there and start getting sort of an inventory of that. And then I think part of that conversation is when we look to recruitment and retention, why do businesses leave? What helps them stay? What's the work's done? So that is part of that conversation.
Great. Still no Ken.
No, again,
Okay, well,
let's be final.
so we will move on to the next item, which is planning commission agenda planning session. So it's just Lynn and I. Well, Lynn, what are some of your ideas?
I'm getting out of here. It's just the 2 of us.
I know.
Actually, I don't really have any yet, so. That's what I got.
Okay.
There's nothing.
So my only thing is back to I want to address the downtown core and kind of the look. And there's been lots of concerns about the gas station I think part of the problem we had there was we need to define what it is we want the town to look like. Instead of having everybody's ideas popping up. And I think I don't know, I was interested in finding out from Kurt. Is putting that into the code a viable option? Putting some of that,
Absolutely.
okay, because I think
Yeah,
right
if there's a
now,
specific, if there's a, so there's usually, public engagement, outreach involved. If it is a sort of design theme, if there's an aesthetic that you want applicants to adhere to, development to adhere to, then yeah, that definitely can be put in the code. There's basic elements that most design standards in downtowns have, to ensure that buildings are positioned up against the street, that entrance is open to the sidewalk, that there's windows that greet the street, and those basic elements are in most downtown areas. But then there's more specific design themes that you can add in as well.
so Lynn, you could speak to this, maybe see what you think too, but from my perspective, I felt like there were some gaps when we were talking about the gas station. Like, I don't recall windows specifically being there. We asked for them,
Yeah.
but it wasn't in the code. I think the only thing I recall is certain building height and building materials, which was wood and brick. But there wasn't any sort of discussion of what does that look like or,
No, it wasn't.
and so I think it would be good to have some community involvement to help define what that is so that we can have something to give when businesses want to come to town. We tell them, this is what you can expect.
So can I ask Kurt a question? Kurt, so how does that correlate with what we're doing right now with the code update with the downtown? Because they're putting in some of those specific, building height requirements and different things in that code language. So do we want to make sure this is in that, or is that something we would just do down the road?
Well, I think we're at the end of that project, so there's just the one committee meeting left. What they've done, and I just saw the draft for the first time today to that section, and it's really just covering those basic elements, not really, the thematic elements that maybe you're looking at.
It
I
wouldn't
think
have any,
one of the problems that you're speaking to or situations that you're speaking to is the fact that you just have one commercial district and it's centered in downtown. So there isn't really it's all a downtown commercial district, and there isn't a commercial district for more general commercial activity like a gas station. Because I think a lot of towns would not appreciate a gas station or that sort of development in their downtown. They would want that reserved for maybe a highway corridor or a commercial corridor that's separated from downtown a little bit.
So is that something we could tackle as a commission to look at? Like, take that on as a topic? Okay. And I have a feeling I think one of the things Shelley mentioned was that we're gonna have the council would like to have a working session with us. And I think that would be a topic I'm guessing that they would be interested in also, so we could confirm that.
yeah.
But yeah, I think there's some questions about zoning, and there's probably some questions about, well, you mentioned like, historically, what is the historic look of our town?
Yeah, so I guess the process for that would be, once we have the work session with council and you come to agreement on what to focus on, then we would want to do public outreach to the community to get their feedback. And then I guess we would take that feedback and work with Kurt to help us update our code and bring that to the planning commission. Would that be the process?
Yeah, Yeah, it'd be the legislative update process that we're going through right now with the two TGM grants,
Right.
or for the two DLCD grants.
We would basically just take those, except, once those are sort of adopted by council, then we would just take that to the next level and go one layer deeper, which sort of more aesthetic. And just do that on our own. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the council would probably support that work
Doing
from
that.
from the commission. And the EDC, that's also sort of what
Yeah.
they charge them to do, at least that piece of it.
So yeah, I'd like to work with them because I think we get people here, and no offense, we get a certain number of people here consistently, but there's an awful lot more people in town who we don't get here. And so
Yeah.
how can we get an outreach to them to find
Yeah.
out? Because I think from an economic standpoint, it's not necessarily planning commission standpoint, something we would have tackle, but what businesses are people interested in having
Right.
in town? It was another valid question, but I think that's more of an economic development question than a.
Is that an economic opportunity analysis, Kurt, that we would do to determine what types of businesses would be supported in the town? Would that come through something like that? Or how would we?
Element, yeah, it'll identify the industries that YAML is particularly positioned to attract. So it's called the target industries approach, and that's the most popular way of doing it. So it will, for instance, examine where people are living, where people are working, your proximity to the McMinnville area and Newburgh and Dundee, and look at your particular access characteristics and things like that, your demographics. And there'll be a specific set of industries that the final product will speak to. And then there's a buildable lands inventory. That's another component.
Well, we did that with the 3J grant, or the DLCD grant. So would we do that again for that? The buildable lands? If we just did it?
For the grant that you're working on now?
Yeah, those two grants simultaneously, they did it. Well, I think it was for housing at least. So would you do that for the downtown?
Or for commercial.
So for the EOA, it would be the downtown commercial area, or it'll be all in commercial and industrial land. So it'd be the commercial district and then that industrial parcel that's to the east of town there.
Yeah,
Really the most valuable component of the EOA would identify potential development that you could attract on that industrial parcel.
okay.
And one of the benefits is it brings potential developers and landowners to the table in that engagement process. And sometimes just the brainstorming and the spitballing and the generation of ideas that comes out of that can generate some enthusiasm for different types of developments. That's that area, that particular parcel, along with the little bit of business that's just adjacent to it, seems like the best near-term opportunity for some sort of like business park or node of employment activity on that side of town, if that's what council is looking for.
If that's what council wants,
Mhm.
I think we have an interesting balance of wanting to stay a small town, but at the same time, in order to support businesses, you need to be able to
Yeah.
have some activity.
Mhm. I think they want to stay small, just stay right,
Right, exactly.
The right business, so. Okay, so an economics opportunity
You're
analysis.
you're definitely not on the edge of a great population boom or anything like
No.
that, for sure.
No, in fact, they
The
said that in
regional-
the PSU forecasting, we actually are gonna go down in 50 years or whatever the latest forecast was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so right now, you're not even, if you look at the population figures that are in the comprehensive plan now, that were used to project the needs for the last 20-year period. You're not even expected to hit those and for another 20 years. So
Okay.
I think the statewide housing needs analysis projected that you're gonna need 109 new housing units over the next 20 years.
100?
That's 109, yeah,
Hmm.
in the UGB. So that's not a huge figure.
So you said the economic opportunity analysis would be a good study for that industrial parcel, but what about the other businesses? Is there a different study for that, for the targeted industry that you mentioned?
No, it examines industrial and commercial,
Okay, so
so.
it'd be all in
it'll-
one. Okay. And is
So
that
I
something-
know for other cities, in Yamhill County, wine tourism is a big focus. I know that's a big area of focus in Dayton. So that's definitely driving a lot of the new development and redevelopment of the downtown in Dayton. You don't have to be Dayton. I'm not saying that you have to be Dayton, but that's just an example of the information that would be highlighted in that product.
So is that something we would work through with you, or would we go find a grant to, do like we did with those other two DLCD grants for the,
You need to find a grant and
Okay.
hire a consultant.
okay,
Then it would be typically what we help with or have been helping with is doing the engagement, scheduling the advisory committee meetings and the actual adoption process
okay.
and some of the
You
project.
would recommend that as a next step after these two grants are adopted? Would that be the next recommendation you would make?
It sounds like that's the highest priority for council. You have some land available. I'm not all that familiar. I'm not familiar at all with downtown, but that's obviously a major concern, major focus. So, and the residential district seems to be pretty well built out. So I think if you wanted it, and then after that, focus on housing. One technical characteristic about the EOA versus the housing capacity analysis is the EOA, you can use it as a policy guidance document. There's no mandate if a need for more employment land is identified, you don't have to necessarily implement measures to address it right away. You can adopt the document without doing that, whereas the housing capacity analysis, if you go through that and there is a need for more land identified, you have to implement solutions before you can adopt the capacity analysis. So you would have to either do a collection of efficiency measures to allow higher density development, more multifamily, rezoning more areas to multifamily, take measures to promote infill development. I don't know if that's really an option, or do the UGB expansion. So it sounds like you're better positioned for an economic opportunity analysis next. And those are really the two most used components of the comprehensive plans, the EOA and the housing analysis.
Yeah, go ahead.
So then with all the pieces that we've talked about, the parks, the transportation system, water, sewer, and those plans that are either somewhat current or are being updated, those all are pieces of the comprehensive plan, right? So then what's your recommendation on
Supporting-
this?
Yeah, they're supporting technical documents, yeah.
Okay, so then what's your recommendation as far as updating the comprehensive plan and when to do that, when to tackle that?
So that's what you're doing right now with the TSP update. So the TSP update will be an amendment and update to the comprehensive plan. So that will update the transportation element to address goal 12. I can't remember the name, the specific chapter in the comprehensive plan. So that will be one piece of it.
Right.
The economic opportunities analysis,
We want-
maybe next year that will add the EOA as a supporting document and update the economic employment chapters of the comprehensive plan and so on. The Parks
Okay.
Master Plan will update the recreation section of the comprehensive plan and adopt the Parks Master Plan as a supporting document.
So each of these pieces are updating our comprehensive plan. So is there a piece that we've neglected to mention that would still need to be updated, or would that cover all of them? So parks, transportation, the housing, that's it.
Yeah, I haven't done a complete review of the
Okay,
of the comprehensive plan, but that's plenty to keep you busy for
right. Okay,
5 to 10 years. That's a lot.
okay,
So you're small enough that you're not required to do any of that. You're not subject to periodic review. So larger cities are required to update those elements every 20 years, so you're not required. But you're still see the value of it. You still, they're still important documents. They're still important for guiding your policy decisions. So
I think council just would like to see it not say 1999.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to get most of
Get
it
away from.
updated.
and water, things like water and sewer and those plans tend to be more technical documents that are other than just the adoption and incorporation into the comprehensive plan, typically by reference or adding or by a supporting document or an appendix. Those are typically led by Public Works and engineering.
Yeah, and those, like I said, are kind of 2018, so they're not super old. Yeah, so we're
So-
doing okay there.
So city planner or planning commission is a very limited role in those updates.
So I guess the bottom, from my perspective, I just see us I'm wanting to see us work well with the Economic Development Committee.
Do you want to do a work session with them?
Um,
They meet during the day, so they
during
have
the
to come at 9, I guess. See if they can.
Yeah, maybe that's something we can discuss at the next meeting after we meet with city council and then go to that.
And the other option I could see is if we did the joint work session with council, so planning commission and EDC came at the same time with council, if that would be productive.
I think that would be,
Okay, I've got a meeting with the chair tomorrow, so I can ask her, she was fine with that too,
okay,
so.
all right. All right, announcements, the SEI filing reminder, I saw my email in my inbox. It came, so.
I looked at it.
Yeah, I knew what it was. I didn't even open it. Our next meeting is currently April 22nd. Does that work for everybody?
April 22nd,
Or 21st, I'm sorry. April 21st?
22nd is the budget.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Double check my calendar.
Yeah, it's April 20th.
What, 21st?
Yeah.
April 21st.
Monday, the third Monday.
And
Yep, works.
when would you guys want to do the work session with council? Because let's see, where are we at March 17th? That would be April 9th would be the next council meeting, which is a Wednesday, which I know are not easy for you.
Yeah.
What time is yours start on Wednesdays that you have to be at your?
Starts at 6:30.
Because we could do a 5 to 6.
Oh, yeah,
Could that work for you?
I could do that. I don't know.
I mean, I can ask if we can do that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about Ken and Sue.
Yeah, me either, but I can do
Yeah.
5 to 6. Let me see.
And then my Mondays and Tuesdays are free. And then
Or,
for anything, I could do meet on a Monday or a Tuesday.
oh, you mean with the council?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get them to do that. Oh, and then the parks
Yeah, that master plan thing.
Committee. we're looking at doing on Wednesdays, if you're gonna be on that.
Oh, what
That's-
time? Yeah,
6 to 8. But just because Tuesdays are budget, but only temporarily, so I can rethink that. I forgot about that for you.
and then Thursdays are available starting May 1st.
Yeah, the first one would be in April. I'll just. I'll be on that one.
And if it doesn't work for me to be on it because of that,
Well, you could be on it and just maybe nothing first meeting.
oh, you mean if it was on Thursdays?
Well, I could see if we can do it on Thursdays. I'll
Oh.
ask about Thursdays.
Yeah. you
Yeah.
can See about Thursday.
Let me ask. April 3rd, that would be a 3rd, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Parks.
I'm just gonna reach out to everybody and get back to them on dates.
What's the question?
Or are you just gonna reach out to everybody and get back to them on dates, or are you guys working out a date right now
Are you talking about the parks?
for the work session?
Work session.
Oh, yeah, the work session, I have to ask if that'll work. I'll have to
Okay.
get back to everybody on that.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll look into that?
Mhm.
All right. Is there anything else? I think so.
That was quick and easy.
I think we're adjourned.
Thanks, Kurt.
Okay, thank
for
you.
coming, Letty.
Well, I could have walked down here for this one. I don't like walking home at night.
Yeah,